is here on the earth and about to reveal himself. Rabbi Yaakov Zitzholtz told Radio 2000 that Rabbi Chaim Kavinsky, who passed away earlier this year, had told him that Kavinsky was already in direct contact with the Messiah and that the Messiah is ready to reveal himself to the world. And since then, more rabbis have come out and confirmed that they too have spoken to this Messiah. Religious Jews are taking this very seriously, primarily because Rabbi Chaim Kavinsky was considered one of the 2 or 3 top rabbis in the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community in Israel. His funeral in the spring of 2022 drew over 1 million people. The streets were absolutely filled with people. This means he was probably a bigger deal there than Billy Graham was here to Christians. What does this mean for Christians, and what kind of events might happen next? You are going to be surprised how significant these could be. And that's what we're going to discuss in this video. First, Christians already know that the Messiah of Israel has already come 2,000 years ago in the person of Jesus, or Yeshua. He died for the sins of the world on a Roman cross, rose from the dead, and is coming back. This is how he said he would return. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Matthew 24:27. When Jesus returns to earth, everyone will see him coming on the clouds in the Shekinah glory of his Father, as bright as lightning. Any so-called Messiah who doesn't come in that way is a false Messiah. It's one of the most important signs in the Bible. And there will be false messiahs coming. Jesus also said this, therefore, if they say to you, look, he's in the desert, do not go out, or look, he's in the inner rooms, do not believe it. Matthew 24:26. Jesus is clear that false messiahs are coming, and not just one Messiah, not just one false Messiah, not just a Jewish false Messiah, perhaps. And Jesus answered and said to them, take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. Matthew 24:4-5. Jesus said many. And he also said, for false Christs, plural, and false prophets, plural, will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. Matthew 24:24. Again, notice that both are plural. There will be multiple false Christs, and they're going to do amazing signs and wonders. So the first takeaway for Christians is that we shouldn't be surprised to see a false Messiah. It is the very first sign in what Jesus called the beginning of birth pangs period, the period prior to the Great Tribulation. In fact, we should expect to see several. Maybe a Jewish Messiah, maybe 2, maybe an Islamic Messiah, maybe 2 of them as well. Just as we saw, Jesus spoke about false messiahs a lot in the Olivet Discourse, his teaching on end times, so we should expect to see a couple of them. The second main takeaway is that if this Jewish Messiah is revealed, it doesn't make him the Antichrist. There are going to be multiple false messiahs, and only one will be the Antichrist. The temptation for Christians is to jump off the handle and think that this is the man of sin. Even if this guy announces himself, we shouldn't immediately think he's the Antichrist. That's a huge takeaway. I want everybody to think about that for a moment. Now, how long has Rabbi Kavinsky been talking about seeing the Messiah? When we say that, and say that a guy is talking to the Messiah, it makes him seem like a nutcase. But it should be noted that this rabbi was a mainstream Torah scholar and never made any public statements predicting the arrival of the Messiah throughout his whole career. That changed in 2015 when he was already 87. Rabbi Kavinsky declared the Messiah was imminent at that point. Since that declaration, he's made like countless other comments, and articles have been found on the internet, 2016, 2020, etc. And just days before his death this year, when the Ukraine war was beginning, he said it was a sign of a soon coming of the Messiah. This was the first time he had indicated a sign of the Messiah's return. Okay, so Israel's most revered rabbi claim to have met and talked to their Messiah, which we know will be a false Messiah. And now that rabbi has passed on. So what can we expect next? Either a false Messiah will present himself or he won't. And if he is going to do it, it's likely going to happen within the next year, 2022 to 2023. Why? Because this is one of the years of the Messiah, as we described in this previous video. In the Talmud, which is a record of Jewish teachings, there is a prophecy, a Jewish prophecy, not a true prophecy, that their Messiah must come on the first year of a new 7-year cycle. And guess what? Jews believe that this last Feast of Trumpets marked the beginning of a new 7-year Hebraic cycle, what the Bible calls a Shabuah, or a week of years. And a lot of other crazy things are happening. Russia just called up 300,000 new soldiers, ferociously bombed Ukraine, declared a crisis and official war, and are threatening nuclear weapons. That's pretty crazy. Then there's the arrival of 5 red heifers in Israel. Yes, a lot of crazy things, a lot of things that look prophetic, may make Jews believe it's time for their Messiah. And the election of a new prime minister is also making many think it's the time. Decades ago, 2 rabbis, Yitzhak Kaduri, as well as Rabbi Menachem Sorensen, both predicted that Benjamin Netanyahu would be the state of Israel's last prime minister prior to the Messianic age. Well, Netanyahu lost in the last election. So a lot of people thought, well, that prophecy must have been false. But now you realize he's running again. And Netanyahu is favored to win in November. So people who have thought about that say, hey, maybe he's coming back. Maybe this prophecy can still be fulfilled. So look, it's the year of the Messiah. There are 5 red heifers. Netanyahu may become prime minister again. If there was ever a time for a false Messiah to present himself to the Jewish people, now might be the time. The next year, the Jews consider a year of the Messiah won't happen until 2029. Now, you might say to me, hey, Nelson, none of these things are real prophecies, and you would be 100% correct. They aren't. But Jews in Israel believe they are, and that makes all the difference. Remember, this is a false Messiah we're talking about. He doesn't need real signs, just signs that his followers believe are real. So this ministry would not be surprised to see a false Jewish Messiah present himself during this Hebraic year, sometime prior to the Feast of Trumpets next year. In fact, we'll be surprised if we don't see one. What will this mean for Jews and Christians? Well, if a man comes forward and claims to be the Messiah, the timing with those red heifers, is going to be perfect, because Jews expect the heifer to be sacrificed when their Messiah is here, for him to participate. So I expect the false Messiah to reveal himself right around the time the heifer is sacrificed. Now, the heifers are about a year old, but they must be 2 years old to qualify to be the red heifer and be sacrificed. So it would be next year, right around Feast of Trumpets. So a possible timetable for the revealing of a false Messiah would be just prior to the Feast of Trumpets next year. That would be in this Hebraic year, the year of the Messiah from the Jewish perspective, from Feast of Trumpets to Feast of Trumpets, 2022 to 2023. Then it might be followed by a sacrifice of the red heifer a month or 2 later. If these 2 things happen, if these 2 things, which are the main signs that Jews have been waiting for 2,000 years, both happen, expect incredible pressure in Israel to negotiate for the building of a 3rd temple. And hold on to your hats, we could even have a peace deal negotiated in exchange for the starting of sacrifices and the right to build a temple. Next year, this time, we could be looking at those things taking place. How will Christians react? Well, remember that most Christians are not interested in the end times at all. They're currently asleep to everything related to the last days, and they're concentrating on other things. So when a Jewish rabbi declares himself to be the Messiah, expect shock and almost hysteria on the part of those in the pews. And then, when the red heifer is sacrificed, there will be news stories about these events. just like there were in 2017 with the star sign in the constellation of Virgo. Do you remember that? What a huge hype that was. So this story will be all over the news. It will be the Christian news story of 2023. Lots of discussion about who this guy is. Many will think this guy is the Antichrist. And others may actually be swayed to believe he's the real Messiah, especially if he begins to perform fake miracles, as the Bible says. They might leave the faith and convert to Judaism, not knowing this is exactly what Jesus said would happen. Now, how will the Islamic world react to a Jewish Messiah? Just as rabbis have been saying that they've been talking to their Messiah, Islamic clerics have been talking to men that they claim are the Muslim Messiah, the 12th Imam, the Mahdi. Would they then feel pressured to reveal this Mahdi? Sure. In fact, there might be a Shia version of the Mahdi and a Sunni version. So, in 2023, we could have 3 false messiahs walking around on this earth. If we do, this ministry will think that a very, very significant thing has happened. When Jesus described the beginning of the birth pangs in Matthew 24:8, he said, all of these things together are the beginning of the birth pangs. All of these happening at the same time. So we must have wars, rumors of war, famine, pestilence, earthquakes, and false messiahs all at the same time. We've had pestilence, you know that. We're headed for famine. We have war, and the rumor is that it will spread. Now, if we add false messiahs, a couple of them, I'd say we could assume we're in the beginning of the birth pangs. The coming of false messiahs is what I have personally been waiting for to feel this way. So next year could turn out to be very, very significant. Who might this Messiah be? Well, about 1.5 years ago, there was a huge stir in the prophetic community about this guy, a Jewish rabbi that many were claiming was the Jewish Messiah. We reported on this about a week after the story broke, warning people to be careful about jumping into the story too soon. And sure enough, this guy came out, talked to some in the Christian community and said, hey, tell your people to stop saying I'm the Messiah, I'm not. Well, he might not be. But someone out there has been telling Rabbi Kavinsky that he is the Messiah. And he's told several other rabbis the same thing. So is it this guy or someone else? We don't know, but it's someone. That we're sure of. But if you want to know about this guy who was suspected before, click right here and keep watching and discover who this man is and why so many felt at the time that he might be the false Jewish Messiah. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.